Have you ever felt a shadow lurking just behind the veil of our reality? Something ancient and uneasy that whispers of things mankind was never meant to uncover. Today, we are going to pull back that veil and explore a mystery hidden in the very first pages of Scripture, a story of rebellion, forbidden unions, and beings that defied the laws of creation itself. Long before Noah built his ark, before the floodwaters rose to cleanse the earth, there was a generation unlike any other, a generation born of both heaven and earth, the Nephilim. The account in Genesis chapter 6 begins quietly, almost as if the Bible expects only the discerning to notice the enormity of what it describes. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, choosing from whomever they pleased. At first glance, it seems like a simple statement, but hidden within it is one of the most chilling revelations in all of Scripture. These sons of God were not ordinary men. They were divine beings, celestial watchers who abandoned their heavenly domain to indulge in the corruption of flesh. Their union with human women produced offspring of immense size and strength, the Nephilim, giants, mighty men of old, men of renown. The ancient world remembers them by many names. To the Hebrews, they were the fallen ones. To the Babylonians, they were gods like Marduk and Gilgamesh. The Greeks spoke of titans and demigods, creatures who were part divine and part human, powerful beyond comprehension. These stories, scattered across cultures, point back to one forbidden reality, a time when heaven and earth collided in rebellion. These beings brought with them forbidden knowledge, astrology, enchantments, weapons of war, and occult wisdom. They ruled over humanity with fear and deception, establishing themselves as divine rulers. Their empire stretched across the ancient world, a golden age of corruption built on the ruins of innocence. But every empire built on rebellion eventually collapses under its own sin. The book of Genesis describes how wickedness spread so widely that every thought of man's heart became continually evil. The earth was filled with violence, bloodshed, and idolatry. The Creator's patience reached its breaking point. The flood was not only a judgment upon humanity, it was a divine act of cleansing, to purge the genetic and spiritual corruption the Nephilim had unleashed. The waters rose, the cities of the giants crumbled, and their enormous bodies were swallowed by the deep. For a moment, it seemed as if the chapter had closed on their story. But then, centuries later, in the book of Numbers, something unsettling reappears. When the Israelite spies entered the Promised Land, they returned terrified, saying they had seen the Nephilim there, the sons of Enoch, descendants of the giants. "We seemed like grasshoppers in our own sight," they said, "and so we seemed to them." The question echoes through time. How could they have survived? The flood wiped out all living things on the earth. Or did it? Perhaps not their spirits. Because the Nephilim were half celestial, their human bodies perished. But their spiritual essence could not pass into the afterlife like ordinary souls. Their disembodied spirits became what Scripture later calls unclean spirits, restless entities, wandering the earth, seeking bodies to inhabit. This is why Jesus' words in the Gospels are so revealing. When he cast out demons, he said that an unclean spirit, once driven out, wanders through waterless places seeking rest and finding none. These beings crave embodiment because they were never meant to exist in the first place. They are the cursed remnants of a hybrid creation, neither fully human nor fully angelic, forever exiled in between. When you see the darkness growing in the world today, the unrest, the rebellion, the obsession with power and knowledge without morality, it's the same pattern repeating. The ancient spirits are awakening, not in the form of towering giants of flesh and bone, but as masters of deception influencing human thought, politics, technology, and spirituality. What began as a rebellion of flesh has now evolved into a war of ideas, a battle for the soul of humanity. The forbidden knowledge they once gave before the flood has resurfaced in new forms: scientific ambition, genetic manipulation, transhumanism. Mankind once again seeks to rewrite the boundaries of creation, to merge with machines, to create life in its own image, to achieve godhood through technology. The same whisper from Eden returns: "You will be like gods." Behind these advancements, behind the promise of progress without accountability, there is an unseen influence guiding it. The fallen watchers who once taught men the arts of war and sorcery now inspire the creation of artificial intelligence, the manipulation of DNA, and the merging of consciousness with machines. They no longer walk openly among us. They operate through influence, subtle, intellectual, seductive. They don't appear as monsters with iron weapons, but as ideas clothed in reason and enlightenment. Yet their goal is unchanged: to defy God's design and to remake creation in their own corrupted image. Even the book of Revelation echoes this truth. When John describes a swarm of locusts rising from the abyss, he's not just speaking symbolically. He describes them as having faces like humans, hair like women's hair, and teeth like lions. They are not ordinary creatures. They represent a return of hybrid abominations, the final manifestation of the Nephilim rebellion. Their king is named Apollyon, or Abaddon, the destroyer, a fallen angel leading the last revolt against heaven. These are not myths or metaphors. They are prophetic warnings of a coming spiritual invasion, when the barrier between the physical and spiritual realms will once again be breached. But even in this darkness, hope remains unshaken. Every rebellion of the fallen has met its end before the throne of God. The same Jesus who defeated death will destroy the final uprising of the Nephilim. The armies of heaven will descend, and the King of Kings will cast down every false god, every spirit of deception, every remnant of rebellion. What was begun in Genesis will be finished in Revelation. The giants that once ruled the earth will be utterly crushed, their names erased from memory forever. They will be cast into the lake of fire with the one who led them into defiance, and their influence will end for all eternity. You can feel their presence even now in the culture of our age: rebellion against authority, the thirst for forbidden power, the pursuit of knowledge without wisdom. These are not just social trends. They are spiritual symptoms of an ancient infection resurfacing. Yet, for those who walk in the light of Christ, the outcome is already decided. No darkness, no deception, no fallen spirit can overcome the power of the Lamb. His light pierces every shadow. His authority silences every whisper of the abyss. We are not called to fear, but to discern, to recognize the patterns of old in the age we live in now, and to stand firm in truth. The Nephilim story isn't just an ancient legend. It's a warning, a mirror, and a prophecy. What began before the flood is reaching its final act. The same spirits that promised humanity divine power are once again offering a counterfeit paradise through technology, politics, and false spirituality. But the end is written. When the world once again bows down to its false gods, when humanity raises towers of pride as high as the heavens, judgment will come, not with water, but with fire. And this time the rebellion will be extinguished forever.